The first thing I remember is the smell. That rich blend of polished mahogany, expensive cologne, and something colder, sharper, the scent of betrayal, though I didn't have words for it yet. I was standing outside the boardroom at Morgan Industries, the company my grandmother had built, the company my father controlled, and the company where I had poured every ounce of my life into my research. I shouldn't have been there. The meeting wasn't mine to attend, but I had gone looking for a misplaced document, and instead I found myself standing frozen by the door as muffled voices slipped out through the crack. I leaned in closer, heart pounding, and that's when I heard it. They were talking about selling off my research division. My division, without telling me. At first, I thought I had misunderstood. How could they sell the work I had given my soul to? The countless nights I had spent hunched over microscopes, the endless simulations, the breakthroughs that came after years of frustration. It was more than just a job. It was the dream I had nurtured since I was a child, sitting by my grandmother's side, listening to her stories of changing the world. And now, my father and sister were planning to carve it away like a limb from a body. I pressed my ear harder to the door, desperate for clarity. And that's when I heard Victoria's laugh. Sharp, dismissive, dripping with mockery. She called my work a vanity project and said the company couldn't afford to indulge me any longer. I wanted to burst in, to scream, to demand an explanation. But I froze. My pulse thundered in my ears, my breath shallow. In that moment, I knew something was horribly wrong. They weren't just planning to sideline me. They were plotting to erase me. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have stormed in and demanded answers? Or would you have done what I did? Step back, hide in the shadows, and listen to every word, because the truth you uncover in silence is sometimes the most dangerous weapon of all. When I finally confronted them days later, I expected denial. I expected shock on their faces, guilt maybe. But instead, my father sat calmly at the head of the table, his eyes tired but unflinching. Victoria smirked at me like a cat that had cornered a mouse. "Elizabeth," my father sighed, "you need to understand this isn't personal. It's business. Your projects drain resources without guaranteeing returns." And then Victoria added salt to the wound. "Honestly, Lizzie, you always were better at dreaming than delivering. I've actually been working with some of your data myself, streamlining it, improving it. Maybe it's time we let someone capable take the reins." Capable. She meant herself. I could barely breathe. My own sister had stolen pieces of my research, twisted them into her own, and mocked me to my face for daring to fight for what I had built. My father, our father, sat there and let her do it. That day, something broke in me. Something deep and fragile. Because betrayal from strangers is one thing, but betrayal from your own blood, that cuts into bone. But here's the thing Victoria never understood. Our grandmother, Eleanor Morgan, may have left her legacy in Morgan Industries, but she left her soul in me. She had trusted me, specifically me, with the future. Years ago, before her death, she had created a trust to fund my research independently. More than that, she had placed the patents, the crown jewels of our innovation, in my name. Quietly, legally, she had carved out a fortress I hadn't even realized the full strength of until I went digging. And when I found those documents, when I held the proof in my hands that they couldn't take from me what was already mine, it was like a flame reignited in my chest. Still, knowing the law was on my side and proving it are two different battles. As I started piecing things together with my legal team and my most trusted research partner, I uncovered just how deep the conspiracy ran. Victoria hadn't just mocked me, she had sabotaged me. Funding requests I'd submitted had been mysteriously blocked, grant proposals redirected, data files corrupted or outright deleted. At first I thought it was just bad luck, maybe poor timing, but then the emails surfaced. Buried in the system, hidden behind encrypted folders, were messages between Victoria and the head of IT, plotting to make me look incompetent,
planning to tank my reputation so the board would see me as unstable, unreliable, and unworthy of leadership. And at the bottom of it all was my father quietly giving his approval. Tell me honestly, how long would you have stayed silent if you knew your own family was plotting to destroy you? Because I stayed silent far longer than most would. Not because I was weak, but because I knew patience would turn their arrogance into a weapon against them. I waited, I listened, and I planned. The showdown came in the boardroom, the same room where I had first overheard their betrayal. The mahogany table gleamed under the lights as the directors shuffled papers and cleared throats. My father began with a speech about strategic realignment, about how the future demanded sacrifice. And just as he prepared to announce the sale of my division, I stood, calm, collected, but burning inside. I laid down file after file, email after email, proof of fraud, theft, sabotage. And then I dropped the final bombshell. The charter clause my grandmother had written into the company bylaws, granting me majority shareholder rights upon her death, rights I had never exercised until now. The silence was deafening. My father's face drained of color. Victoria sputtered excuses, but the board's eyes were wide, their loyalties shifting before me. For the first time, I wasn't the daughter to be patronized, the sister to be mocked. I was the heir, the rightful leader, the one holding all the cards. And when I declared that I was assuming control as chairwoman, effective immediately, no one dared to challenge me, not even him. But Victoria, she didn't go quietly. She threatened to burn the company to the ground, to take me down with her. She swore she'd ruin me in the press, in court, in the eyes of every scientist who had ever admired my work. And maybe she could have, if I hadn't already been 10 steps ahead. By the time she tried to strike, the evidence of her collusion, her theft, and her fraud had already been handed over to the authorities. Watching her face as the realization sank in that her empire of lies was crumbling around her was a satisfaction I can't even put into words. She was terminated from her position, publicly disgraced, and facing criminal charges. My father stepped down, his reign of control ending not with triumph, but with shame.
But revenge is never just about victory in a room full of suits. It's about the people who stood by you when the world tried to crush you. My team, those brilliant, loyal scientists who refused lucrative offers from rivals, who protected our research like it was sacred, they became my family in the truest sense. Together, we secured every byte of data, every fragile thread of discovery, and kept pushing forward despite the attacks. And when the company tried to paint me as unstable, to smear my name in the media, I didn't flinch. Because while they were playing at politics, I was building the future. You see, I had a secret they didn't know. A facility, hidden in plain sight, funded quietly through the trust my grandmother had set aside. Project Helios. It was there that the real magic happened. Long-term quantum stability, revolutionary cancer detection, carbon capture technology that could change the climate fight forever. And when I unveiled it all, when the world saw what we had been working on, not just ideas, but breakthroughs, the noise of my enemies faded into irrelevance. Because innovation speaks louder than slander. There's a moment I'll never forget. Standing on that stage, unveiling the future, and catching a glimpse of my mother in the front row, tears in her eyes. She had been silent through so much of the family war, torn between loyalty to her husband and love for her daughters. But when I asked her to lead our charitable foundation, to heal what had been broken and ensure that our wealth served the world as my grandmother had always intended, she smiled through her tears and said, yes. That was when I knew the revenge wasn't just mine. It was justice. It was legacy. In the months that followed, Morgan Industries tripled in value, not because of ruthless cuts or hollow deals, but because for the first time in decades, it was led with vision, integrity, and courage. My grandmother's courage. My courage. And as I walked through the halls of our headquarters, now filled with the hum of progress instead of the whispers of betrayal, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Sometimes I think back to those nights of doubt, those moments when I wondered if I should just walk away, let them win, start over somewhere else. And I ask myself, was it worth it? Was the pain, the waiting, the slow burn of revenge worth the firestorm that followed? And the answer every time is yes. Because revenge, when it's built on truth and justice, isn't destruction. It's transformation. So here I am, years later, standing in my office beneath a portrait of my grandmother, her favorite motto inscribed below, "The quiet revolutionaries are the ones who change the world." I look at it often, especially when mentoring young scientists who doubt themselves, who feel crushed by the weight of dismissal or betrayal. And I tell them my story, not just the victories, but the scars. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't just in proving your enemies wrong. It's in proving to yourself that you were right all along. And for the first time in longer than I can remember, I leave work on time. Because revenge isn't about staying trapped in the war. It's about finding balance once the battle is won. Tell me, honestly, if you had been me, would you have waited that long for payback? Or would you have struck sooner, no matter the cost?